Hey, good morning, DFS Army. It's Craig Bennett, aka Cash Cake here. I'm about to do another NBA First Look podcast for Monday, February 8th, 2021. We have a nice 8-game slate on tap tonight. Got some injury news we got to go through. Going to build a sample lineup on DraftKings, talk about some FanDuel pricing, just overall fun, and hopefully help you win some money. If you like these videos, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn that notification bell so you know when I upload these videos, and let's just keep knocking these out and hopefully win some money. Let's jump in on it. All right, again, here's the DraftKings slate, 8-gamer. We'll go over some injury news, team by team, kind of build us something here, kind of early in the day, you know. We locks in over 7 hours, so things can change, especially in the NBA. First game, Houston at Charlotte, 223 over under. Houston favored by 3. John Wall is probable. Devontae Graham is questionable in this game. But the big news here for Houston, Wood is out for a while, so we're not going to get all the DeMarcus Cousins that we can get. 1.31 fantasy points per minute on the season, 25% usage rate. He should play over 30 minutes here. Even as price is 7,100, I think you can play him here. On FanDuel, he is 6K. He's going to be the chalk center all day long. It's too cheap. You just plug him in your cash games and move on. On DraftKings, I think it's similar. Even at 7,100, I think he should be priced up closer to high 7s or low 8s, just because of how productive he is. Now, with John Wall playing, Wall and Oladipo, I think they're okay plays. 7,400 for John Wall on DraftKings, 7,400 on FanDuel as well, and 8,100 for Oladipo, 7,900 on FanDuel. I like John Wall's price on both sides. I think you can play him. I just think that there's some other guys that will look to that you don't have to, and the minutes. You should still be, low 30s. And he's been a 1.14 fantasy point per minute. It's Boogie's the guy that I want if I'm playing one guy, and especially on FanDuel. Eric Gordon, 6K on DraftKings, 5,900 on FanDuel. Tournaments only for me when we got Wall and Oladipo. He's basically the fourth guy on this team now when those guys are healthy. So I don't really want a whole lot of Gordon here, and I don't want any of these other guys on a slate this large. So Cousins is the guy. He's going to be your chalk guy. Wall, some tournaments, Oladipo tournaments as well, but I don't think there's a whole lot of meat left on the bone there. Let's head on over to the Charlotte side. If Devontae Graham is out, we should see a lot of LaMelo Ball, but holy crap, Melo is expensive. 8,300 on DraftKings. Over on FanDuel, he is priced up to 7,800. I like that price a little better on FanDuel because he does get you some blocks and assists, some blocks and steals, and those add up way more over there. And this is a hefty price tag. When we get into a couple of these other games, there's going to be guys I would rather focus on and play than try to play ball here. So not too excited about it on DraftKings. Don't think we're going to play him. Cody Zeller, 6,100 on DraftKings. He is 5,800 on FanDuel. But like I talked, I don't think nobody's going to go there on FanDuel because Boogie is just right at that price point, and I don't see the need to go there at all. So you can play him. PJ Washington, he is 5,700 on DraftKings. Over here on FanDuel, he is 6,200. He makes interesting play on DraftKings and tournaments at that price. Against Houston, that should be up and down a little bit. He's a fantasy point per minute guy and should play in the low to mid 30s. So tournaments only here. And Hayward, 7,900 on DraftKings. Over on FanDuel, he is priced at 7,600. Like him on FanDuel because you got to play two small forwards, so I don't mind that play. Don't think I like the price on either of these, Melo or Hayward. So I'm in cash games. I don't want any of these guys. You can look if Graham is out, some Monk as well, 4,700. He'll get some more run. But a guy that, again, I liked him when he was a lot cheaper. I don't think you need to go here on an 8-game slate and get too crazy. So we ain't going to run anything back here. We're just going to leave Cousins in this lineup. Let's go to the next game. And this is the one I think we're going to get some things here. Now we have Russell Westbrook is doubtful. Larry Markkinen is doubtful. Otto Porter is out. There's going to be this game is sitting at a 237 over under. Chicago favored by 2.5. There's going to be fantasy points in this game. We're going to want a little bit of this game. So on the Washington side, on cash games, you just load up Beal at 9K. He's going to have all the shots in the world, all the usage in the world. You just kind of play him on here. 10-8 on FanDuel, though, is a different story. I don't think he's a must, but as you're building lineups, you have to consider him with the usage and the minutes that he's going to see up against Chicago in a close team. But on DraftKings, I don't know how you don't play him. If Westbrook does sit, it's just the way to go here. And then there's a bunch of cheap guys for Washington. It's really hard to figure out what they're going to do here. Denny, Bertans, Ish Smith, Hachimura, even Alex Lynn lately. It's one of those things I don't know exactly what's going to go on. Bertans can catch fire at any time. 4,200 on DraftKings. Over here on FanDuel, he's priced at 4,300. He's a guy that I would consider in tournaments at that price, because if he does catch fire and gets hot, he can put up a 30 or 40 burger on you. So I'll consider him. And Rui, I don't think I love the price on Rui on DraftKings, but again, Chicago's front court is so bad. And on FanDuel, he's 5,200 at small forward, should play in the low 30 minutes. He's only been a 0.81 fantasy point per minute, which isn't fantastic. But, you know, he's a guy that we can look at. But just in tournaments for me, I can't see. They can play a lot of these guys, man. They got Troy Brown, Neto. It's just a mess. So stick with Beal and maybe a little bit of Rui. Maybe some Ish Smith. You know, he should play some point guard here as well. He's 5K on DraftKings, 4,800 on FanDuel if Westbrook is out. So you can consider him as well. And I can see him probably being pretty chalky on FanDuel if we don't have any Westbrook. On the Chicago side, same kind of thing. If Lowry is out, we're going to get all these shots from LaVine. I think you can play quite a few of these Chicago guys, especially on FanDuel. Zach LaVine, 8,900 on DraftKings, 8,800 on FanDuel. I still think he's playable here with no Lowry Markkanen. He's going to have a lot more shots. As you can see, he put up 25 against Orlando with Lowry out there, put up a 55 burger. So I would consider him. I don't think he's a must. I prefer Beal for 100 more, but you can play both of them if you want to bring him back. We'll throw him in this lineup as we're just doing things, but I don't think he's a must. But it's a good bring back because both Beal and LaVine could put up 60. It wouldn't surprise me at all. But with Lowry Markkanen out, you got to look at Thad Young. He's been super consistent. However, 7,200 on FanDuel, 6,700 on DraftKings is a price tag where there's not a lot of meat left on the bone with him. Kobe White, it's kind of hard to trust him. 6,400 on DraftKings is a no-go. 5,600 on FanDuel, a guy that's, he's only 0.84 fantasy points per minute. But against Washington, I have no problem playing him. Patrick Williams, 4,500 on FanDuel is a great tag on him. He'll probably be in a cash lineup for me over that power forward. On DraftKings at 5,100, I don't think he's a must. I wish Valentine was small forward eligible, though, because we saw him jump into that starting lineup with Porter out and Lowry out, and so we'll probably see something similar. He played, I think, 37 minutes against Orlando, put up 33 fantasy points. So he's a guy we can consider. I just hate that he's a guard eligible here. On FanDuel, it's fantastic because he's small forward at 4,400, and I'd throw him right in there. So he's a guy I would look at. But on DraftKings, I think right now I'm going to put Williams in at the small forward position here. I think you want to play at least two Bulls. Maybe on FanDuel you could probably play all three, LaVine, Williams, and Valentine. On DraftKings, probably only two. So if you don't want to play Zach LaVine and pay up for that price, maybe you want to do this. Maybe you want to go do this and play Valentine. That's a way to go. We'll do this, but you can go either way. But I think you want a couple Bulls and at least Beal. Maybe you want to take a shot on Ish or a guy like that. But definitely a friendly fantasy game with that massive 237 over under and a close spread. So you're going to want part of this game. Heading over to Toronto at Memphis. We have a 223 over under. Toronto favored by 2. OG Anunoby is still out for Toronto. On the Memphis side, Clark is out. Melton is out. So on the Toronto side, all these guys are kind of priced up. Fred VanVleet is up to 8,500, so he's an expensive tag on this. 9,200 on FanDuel. I just can't go there except tournaments. Lowry 7,800 on DraftKings, 8,300 on FanDuel. Siakam 9,300 on FanDuel, and he is 7,900 on DraftKings. I would make a rule to only play one out of the three at the price if you're going to play any of them. So if you're playing 150 lineups or 50 lineups, I would make a rule to only one of three of these guys in large field tournaments. Powell and Boucher are the guys I'm looking at more price per dollar. Powell's 6,500 on FanDuel, 6,500 on DraftKings. He sees a ton of minutes, in 32, 26, 37, 41. If you can get 35 fantasy points out of him, you'll love him at that price. So I don't mind him in tournaments. And then Chris Boucher, his minutes are trending up, and he's 5,400 on DraftKings, 5,900 on FanDuel. See monster games at him, 49 and 33 minutes against Atlanta, 32 and 27 minutes. So if those minutes keep trending up and we can see, mid 20 minutes out of him, Chris Boucher's been a 1.30 fantasy points per minute. It leads the team in fantasy points per minute. We've seen him with the blocks and just everything that he does. We'll throw them in this lineup. Things can change, but we'll throw them in this lineup real quick. But those are the guys I would look at. Again, I would only play one of these Toronto guys in tournaments only, because any one of these guys can go off. Fred VanVleet went ham one game, Siakam went ham, Lowry went ham. They're just kind of trading off, so can't really trust them in cash games. Over on the Memphis side, Ja Morant, 7,500 on DraftKings. Over here on FanDuel, Ja Morant is 7,200. I think it's a good tournament option that you can look at, but we really haven't seen a big Morant game. Joval coming back, 7,200 on DraftKings, 6,700 on FanDuel. No one's going to play him on FanDuel because everyone's going to play Boogie, so that makes it an interesting pivot. And even on DraftKings, Boogie is your cash center, but if you want to get a little different, maybe in your three-mans and your single entries and hope that Boogie fails, Joval is a great pivot off that for 100 more, so interesting place here. And I don't really want any of these other guys on the slate this large. You can look at some Kyle Anderson, I guess, at 5,700 on DraftKings and FanDuel. He's been over a fantasy point per minute for the season. So, if he sneaks into 30 minutes, he could probably get you there, but no one I'm excited playing. And then the last guy's a tournament only, but he's got monster upside when he is on, is Dylan Brooks. He's 4,700 on DraftKings, 5,300 on FanDuel. He's a real streaky player. And when he gets hot, he can put up 40 or 50 even. But the games are few and far between where you can't trust him in your cash games. Let's move on to the next game. Minnesota at Dallas, 225.5 over under. Dallas favored by 9.5. Looks like we got Hernan Gomez questionable. Jared Culver is out. Cat is doubtful. Russell's questionable. And on the Dallas side, James Johnson is questionable. So on Minnesota side, it all is going to hinge upon D-Russ. If D-Russ is out, we're going to look at Beasley. Rubio didn't get a lot of run. I thought he was going to get more run last game when we had D-Russ out. 24 minutes, put up 21 fantasy points. He was cheap. He is still cheap. Over on FanDuel, he's still the price he was the other night, 4,700. You can consider him. Problem with this team, like I've always said, Saunders is an idiot, and he'll run about 15 guys out there and just get kicked in the teeth. So it's hard to trust all these guys. Malik Beasley, 6,900 on FanDuel, 6,700 on DraftKings. I don't mind him in tournaments, but just not a team I love. I guess you can look at Naz Reid at 6,100 on DraftKings, or 6,100 on FanDuel, 6,000 on DraftKings. He's had some consistent games, 39, 31, 30. I'm not afraid of Dallas at all. They're a bad defensive team. So if you want to consider him as a pairing with Cousins, I think that's a fair play. And then Edwards, 6,100 is too expensive for me. 5,800 on FanDuel. I just don't like this team that much. Not until Saunders gets fired. Let's go over to Dallas side. Luka Doncic, 11K. 11.4 on FanDuel. Going to be in play. If we have enough value open up, he's going to be in play considered in cash all the time, especially against Minnesota. They're just a putrid, horrible team. So no problem playing Luka. I'm not going to put him in this lineup as we're building things, but no problem playing him. Porzingis, 8,400, 8,100 on FanDuel. More of a FanDuel play than DraftKings. I don't think you need to go there. There's other guys I'd rather play than Porzingis. But again, great matchup against Minnesota. They are horrible. The other guys we're looking at here, maybe some Josh Richardson. He is 4,700 on FanDuel, 5K on DraftKings. There's someone that you can consider to play the minutes that he plays. Anybody else here? That's about it. I mean, you could look at Kleba, I guess. Maybe more so on FanDuel where it's 4,200. But, it's going to be the Porzingis Luka show. And all these other guys are just secondary and tertiary plays that you're just kind of filling lineups at. So I'm not too excited about playing them outside of the big hosses. Let's head on over to Golden State and San Antonio. Monster over under on this one. 233.5 over under. Spurs favored by 1.5. Golden State still out without their bigs. No James Wiseman, no Kevon Looney, and Eric Pascal is questionable. And over on the Spurs, no LMA. LaMarcus Aldridge is out, and Lonnie Walker is out. So starting on the Golden State side, Steph Curry is 10-3. I think he's a guy that you can always consider, even against the Spurs. Most people, if they're going to spin up, they're going to go to Luka. So it always makes an interesting tournament play. And he's got major upside. He almost put up a 70 burger. Yeah, 75 he put up against Dallas that last game. And 2 games before that, he put up 73. So always a great pivot off of playing a chalkier Luka, just because Curry's shown it over his last few games. Draymond Green, very interesting. 7,300 on DraftKings, 6,800 on FanDuel. If Pascal is out, you got to play him. 48 and 42. He got 42 fantasy points and didn't even play the fourth quarter in that first game against Dallas. Then the next game played 37 minutes in a close game against Dallas. Dude scored 48 fantasy points and scored 2 points. So this is what he does. He had 6 steals and 4 blocks, but that's a typical Draymond line. So you can consider him even priced up here. I don't think he's a must play, but a guy you can consider. Same thing with Kelly Oubre, 6,000 on DraftKings, 6,700 on FanDuel, priced up, but a tournament play. Wiggins, same kind of thing, 6,400 and 6,600 tournament play. And then maybe you can look at some Toscano Anderson, 4,500 on DraftKings, 5,300 on FanDuel. And these would be only if we had Pascal as out for me when it comes to like a Toscano Anderson. I mean, we'd have to see that. But that's a cheap tag. If he's out, I like both. Draymond Green is probably my number one if Pascal's out, then Toscano Anderson, and then like a Steph Curry, Oubre, Wiggins. That's kind of how I'd rank them if I was going to play him. So again, I'm gonna throw Draymond in this lineup right here. I just think he does a little bit of everything. We'll consider Pascal being out, but we'll see what happens when we get to that news. Over here on the Spurs side, man, just who do you trust on a pop team? I guess I think that's the biggest issue when you play any Spur. With the one guy that we know that should start is Jakob Poeltl at 5,900 on DraftKings, at 5,800 on FanDuel. He's around a 1 fantasy point per minute. Should play in the low 30s here. Going up against Golden State, but Golden State can go small too. That's one thing. If they run Draymond at the 5, they don't have to go Jakob Poeltl. They could run lots of different ways. They could run Rudy out there. Pop could match them with whatever size. So that's the one only worry about Jakob is just maybe they go small. So maybe Keldon Johnson plays a little bit more. 5,800 on FanDuel, 5,300 on DraftKings. I'm sorry, flip that. 5,300 on FanDuel, 5,800 on DraftKings. He's 0.96 fantasy points per minute for the season. Been all up and down. Tournaments only. This whole team is tournaments only. I can't trust any of these guys in cash. So DeMar DeRozan, 8,100 on FanDuel, 7,700 on DraftKings. It's a high total. One of these guys is probably going to get there. And if I had to pick one, it's probably the safest. Maybe I'd say DeJounte Murray, 7,100 on DraftKings or FanDuel, 6,800 on DraftKings. I don't mind him going up against Golden State. 22, 44, 18, and 34. He's been kind of all over the place as well. DeMar DeRozan, though, 7,700, 50, 48, 37. But he should play a ton of minutes if the game is close. So I don't mind considering one of these guys. I wouldn't get crazy with the Spurs just because Pop can run, 13 guys out there pretty easily. So, look more on the Golden State side in your cash games is what I guess I would get out of this. Sending it over to Cleveland at Phoenix. This game does not excite me at all. 214 over and a half over under. Phoenix favored by 7. We still have no Kevin Love here. Larry Nance is out. On Phoenix side, Crowder's questionable, Saric is questionable, and Cameron Payne is questionable. So on the Cleveland side, with no Nance and Love, you could look at Drummond at 8,200 if you want to. Ayton's defense is pretty bad. So I think it's a good pivot on FanDuel at 7,200 off Boogie if you wanted to think Boogie doesn't get there, because Boogie's going to be the chalk. But Drummond's been a 1.51 fantasy points per minute. It's just the minutes lately. We probably won't see 30 minutes out of him. 30, 30, 22, 33. He'll be around that, but he's just been a monster. Again, Ayton doesn't scare me too much, but if it gets out of control, I don't think we're going to see mega minutes out of him. So, I think it's a better FanDuel than DraftKings play. I don't think I'll play him on DraftKings. And really the only other guys I would look at on this whole team, in this matchup, and just tournaments only, I look at Tyrene Prince at 4,300 on DraftKings. He is 5K on FanDuel. 1830, 1830, all over the place, but we've seen some upside out of him, and he's a cheap enough tag I think you can consider. And then, we'll look at Darius Garland here. Darius Garland, he's going to get the assists, some scoring, 32, 21, 30, and 40. But he's priced at a point where I don't think there's a ton of meat left on the bone. He is priced at 6,200 on FanDuel. Been about 0.68 fantasy points, but the minutes are going to be there. I feel the most safe about his minutes. But again, not a game I'm really targeting at all. Over on the Phoenix side, again, it's very similar where their Booker's back, so it kind of just screws up everything. Chris Paul's interesting, I guess, on FanDuel, 7,500, 7,600 on DraftKings if you want to play him. But again, with Booker there, it's kind of hard to trust. Frank the Tank, 4,700 on FanDuel, 4,300 on DraftKings. If we don't have no Crowder and Saric, he should play some more minutes. Same with Cam Johnson. 5K. But all these guys are tournaments only. Nobody that I'm going to play in a cash game. When we have Washington and Chicago on the slate, and Minnesota, Dallas, games that I just know will get up and down in fantasy points, and I don't need to look at a Cleveland Phoenix game. So I think the easiest thing to do is we just kind of move on from it and go to the next game here. Milwaukee at Denver. This should be a fun game to watch. 233.5 over under. Milwaukee favored by 4. Jamal Murray is questionable for Denver. Gary Harris is out and PJ Dozier is out. One thing we're going to do probably if we get we'll start on the Milwaukee side first. On the Milwaukee side, they're basically fully healthy. So, Giannis is 11-2 on FanDuel, 10-9 on DraftKings. Drew Holiday, 8,200 on FanDuel, 7,700 on DraftKings. Chris Middleton, 7,200 on FanDuel is a fantastic tag for him. 7,500 on DraftKings. I think more of a FanDuel play for me. He's been kind of down lately, but we know his upside. And then Bobby Portis, you always got to have him, even at price. 6,200 on FanDuel, 5,200 on DraftKings. Great price on DraftKings. Again, a guy that can go off for 43 and 41 in 2 of his last 4. He just needs the minutes, man. The guy is a monster when he's on the court, and Denver's defense does not scare me. So always have some Portis. Love playing him in 3 max, because if you're playing 3 lineups, you throw him on 1. If he goes off that day, you're probably crushing that lineup. So love him in tournaments. And again, like all these big 3, they're just tournament options only when they're all healthy. It's really hard to get behind any of them. But I'd probably say Middleton, Giannis, and Portis are my favorite. On the Denver side, though, what we're probably going to do if Murray is out, you're probably going to be locking in Monte Morris as your starting point guard, especially over here on FanDuel. It's stupid price, lock button territory. He's 4,200 on FanDuel. If Jamal Murray's out, he's going to play a ton of minutes, and he's 0.81 fantasy points for the season. He was out last game, played 35 minutes, put up 30 fantasy points. You take that all day long at this tag, especially on FanDuel at 4,200. It's just stupid cheap. So we got to look at that tag. Jokic just been a monster, man. Put up a monster game against Sacramento over the weekend. Has put up an 88.5 burger against Sacramento. Said, hold my beer, I'm going to smash you. And he did. And you can always look at Jokic. So Jokic boogie pairing is always fun. He's priced up though to 11-1. You're going to be getting off of some of these other guys. So, but man, monster. But again, Milwaukee doesn't really give up a ton of points in the paint. So would have to be doing some pretty good shooting on the outside, which he can do, and he can facilitate. He can play point forward, and he can get a lot of points in different ways. I don't need to talk up Jokic, but just probably tournaments only for me as of now. Michael Porter Jr. though is cheap, 5,200 on FanDuel, 6,100 on DraftKings. I don't mind playing him on both sides. The one thing is Milwaukee gives up threes, and that's what Michael Porter Jr. loves to shoot. He loves shooting threes, and he's damn good at it. So 1.11 fantasy points per minute. If Malone, gets a clue and we don't have Murray, and Porter can take more shots. I love that tag on him on FanDuel. I mean, I love it. Will Barton, 4,800 on FanDuel, 5,500 on DraftKings. It's easier, Michael Porter Jr. for me on DraftKings. Again, Barton's more of a slasher than a shooter, so he wants to get to the rim, whereas Porter Jr. would rather sit out there and stroke threes. And so that's how you beat Milwaukee, and that's the kind of guys that I want on the team out there. So I prefer Porter over Barton. And again, so that's about it for me. I don't need a JaMychal Green on this slate. I don't need a Paul Millsap or something like that. It's basically Jokic, Porter Jr., and Morris. Those are the guys that I'm looking at. Let's go to the final game of the night where we have OKC at the Lakers. Mike Muscala is out and Al Horford is in. Maledon is out. Roby's out. Anthony Davis is doubtful. It's kind of funny. I recorded this video last night and the audio got screwed up. So this is the second time that I'm doing this. Yes, lots of fun. He was questionable when I was doing that. So to see him doubtful now, that kind of speaks right into this. LeBron James is probable. Again, 216.5 over under. Lakers favored by 11. With Anthony Davis being doubtful, we don't think he's probably going to play then. I think you have to consider playing some of these Lakers now. We just have to. But on the OKC side, I think you can play them more now if we don't have any AD. Still a 10-point spread, and then AD is just doubtful, but that's never a good sign when it goes from questionable to doubtful. Al Horford's too cheap at 6,300. With no AD in there, he should be able to do a little bit more, and he's going to be doing a lot. He's going to have to play a lot of minutes with these guys out with no Muscala. No Roby. He's going to have to play some heavy minutes. Him and Baisley are going to. So I don't mind coming down here and sliding Al Horford in this lineup. If the game stays close, it's going to be a lot to do with Al Horford. So I don't mind him. Baisley as well. I don't mind him at 5,800 in tournaments more. Just I feel safer with Al Horford if I'm picking a guy and if I think the game's going to stay close. And then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander 8K on DraftKings. Over here on FanDuel, he is 8,400. They're just going to be shorthanded. They're going to have to play some minutes. Like I said, if Horford plays over 30 minutes, he's been a 1.14 fantasy points per minute. I think it helps Gilgeous-Alexander if AD is out, though, because he's more of a slasher and he likes to get to the rim, so we don't have to worry about him as much. So that does help. So I like him on FanDuel a little bit. Diallo's going to have to play big minutes. He's 6,200 on FanDuel. He's 6,000 on DraftKings. Dort 4,500. Kendrick Williams 4,400. More draft or FanDuel plays than DraftKings. I don't think you need to go there on this big slate, but someone you can. On the Lakers side, though, if we have no AD, you're going to be playing Kyle Kuzma. It's going to happen, especially if small forward, power forward eligible. We could throw him right in this lineup and got 600 left to basically do what we want with it. But yeah, you're going to be playing some Kuzma. He's going to be a cash lock with no AD, so you're probably going to start your power forward position with him. 4,900 on FanDuel. It's just he's 0.83 fantasy points per minute, but it goes up. I'd have to do the calculation, but he's going to start and see over 30 minutes, and at that price, you're going to play him. LeBron James, again, you're going to have to consider him as well. 10-8 on FanDuel, 10-5 on DraftKings. I always consider him more on FanDuel because you got to play two small forwards, not so much on DraftKings. So no problem playing him. Guy that you have to look at. You're going to want some of this team with no AD. Harrell, Schroeder, both guys you're going to look at. 5,400 for Dennis Schroeder. No problem playing him on FanDuel at all at point guard. Love him. 5,700 on DraftKings, no problem. Center Harrell, though, is probably more DraftKings play than FanDuel. 5,300 on DraftKings, 5,200 on FanDuel. And that's just because Boogie Cousins is going to be the chalk center. So I don't think you need to go to Harrell there. But if you want some price savings here, KCP could shoot a little bit more. He's only 3,600 on FanDuel, 3,700 on DraftKings. So, he could stroke it a little bit. But for the most part, it's Kuzma's going to be chalk. LeBron James, Schroeder as the top three I'm looking at. THT here, Horton Tucker, just tournaments only because he crushes when he gets out there, but he could play 10 minutes or he could play 20 minutes. So you got to consider tournaments only for him. But that's kind of what we're looking at here. Again, I hope you enjoyed this rundown. I hope these help. If they do, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. In the comments section, let me know if there's anything else you want me to do for you. Hopefully that we can win some money on the slate. Really nice slate on Monday. Congratulations to Tom Brady in his 7th NBA trophy. Lombardi trophy. Crazy that game was. Man, got to give it to him, man. But yeah, with that, again, I'll see you over in the DFSArmy chat rooms, and we'll talk it up, do some cheat sheets, and hopefully win some cash. So I appreciate each and every one of you. I will see you on the flip side. Deuces.